Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. Today, I have Tom Pogson from BIV Victoria, BC. That's Basic Income Guy from Victoria. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show.
Hey Brent, thanks for having me, and Neil and Bertie. And yeah, it's really I don't know, quite an honor to be asked to be on the show.
It's always a pleasure having you on, Tom.
Cheers.
I just
Yeah.
I just realized that I look very orange, so I might change my light a little bit. No, don't mind me.
That's okay.
That's okay. It puts a little bit of color into the spectrum here.
I still look orange. Anyway,
It's all good.
Yeah, me and Brent are both.
Oh, there
in
you go.
green
That's a bit better.
Yeah.
A little bit of color in the face. Yeah, so everyone tuning in today, Tom's going to be talking to us about the realities of basic income on
Yep.
how money will really help people.
Yeah.
I mean, put money back into the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, give people money. I mean, if I could put the song on, but you can't because you're not allowed to.
YouTube would strike us. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, I'd be like, money, money, money.
Well, we're allowed to sing it. We're allowed to sing it. Actually, we just can't.
In a rich world, right? I mean,
There's nobody. There's Money by Pink Floyd. There's
Yeah.
money. Yeah, the ching.
Show me the money.
Okay, here we go.
Show me the money. Wait.
Yeah, actually,
yeah.
you could play it. That's allowed.
I can definitely play the bass line for it. Yeah, I have a background of being my background's as a bassist and writer, and I guess I'll launch into. Me and Neil were talking about I'll do the old man thing, and I'll go into the long story.
The origin story. We were talking about the origin story.
How the origin story of Tom the BC guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so and it was interesting. It's like when I was working on putting everything together, I was last night working at Tim Hortons, just kind of like putting all the last notes in place. And I used to be there like back in 2019, and just like I'd go from work to there and then hang out and then come home. And it was it was a new Tim's. It was pretty quiet. And now it's like a lot of unhoused persons. Not that obviously there's nothing wrong with this, but like they're camped outside on this side, and then there's a lot of folks who what they'll do is they'll get a coffee, so they'll stay inside until basically it's like, okay, it's 10. Sorry guys, we're closing. And it's like, boy, it's like it really hit home how immediate this stuff is. That it's like, it's a little bit like that scene from the movie Powder with Jeff Goldblum, and I can't remember the guy who played Powder, but it was like the character spends all of his time cloistered inside of his basement reading books, and Jeff is explaining to him like all these things, all the struggle you've read about is real. And so it's very easy because I'm usually reading over there, reading somewhere else, and working on this stuff and focused in on it, and it's like, and then you're there, and it's just we got, it's like, you both want to get this out as soon as possible, but you also like want to help every which way that you can. And so it's like, that's kind of the thing that kind of like keeps me going. It's like, is how much things have changed. And that leads right into it. I graduated, I'm 49 years old. I graduated back in 1992. And before I graduated, a guy from the Ministry of Education came to our school. And he did this kind of show where he started by like talking really kind of seriously and everything. And then he's like, "Can you guys hear me?" No. And then he ripped it good, and he puts on this baseball cap, and he's like, "Oh," all like energized, animated. But what he ended up saying is like, don't expect the same job your whole life, and you'll definitely have to have post-secondary. And now it's like, don't expect the same job your whole week. But that's where I'm going. It's like, before that guy, when my parents' day, I remember like it was like my dad, like one guy that the guy who yelled at Christopher Freeland as he said it. It's like, boy, back in my day, a guy could work 40 hours a week, pay for the wife and kids. And I'm like, yes, exactly, because there's this claim that comes at basic income that it's some Hegelian dialectic that you guys are conjuring up a problem to then fix. And it's like, no. This has been growing for decades. And like, so back in those days, 1992, I graduated. My first job was McDonald's, and I had a manager tell me that, well, you'll get your 40, as in 40 hours a week was this like enshrined thing that if as long as you were sensible, you definitely make it from month to month. Okay, so we then move a decade later, 2002. Already benefits and wages are not what they were. Homelessness is just starting to rise. And I remember going on this one shopping trip for me and my loved one at the time. And it was like I just gotten the Jamie Oliver cookbook. So it was like I had all these like recommended, like get this spice and get this thing. And so it came to like $88. And I'm like, oh my God, $88 for a week's worth of groceries. And that was over the top, right? That was like more than normal. Now you compare that to now. So we move a decade later again, 2012. Encampments are starting to rise all over the place. People are having multiple jobs. And it was around here that I was kind of saying to myself, like, we should just take everyone's income and just double it. Not that I'm so clever, but honestly, it's like, I was like, welfare is obviously ridiculously low. Disability is obviously ridiculously low. And minimum wage is obviously not catching up. And so that was kind of, it was that. There was something that, there was a former co-writer that I worked with who, now unfortunately, we're not on speaking terms, so this is kind of my own objective opinion. She doesn't really, but this is kind of what happened. She was on disability. She was working with me on a project, a multicultural project. She was First Nations. I'm obviously not. And let's see, because we got money from Canada Media Fund, Disability found out, didn't just cut her off, but cut off her drug coverage. And that she kind of did a tailspin straight down to where this person who was getting interest from this hour is 22 minutes went to not being able to stay at one of our Rock Bay Landing, one of the most rougher street places in town. And it's just like, so I saw through her, through other people that I'd worked around and been as a musician, you know, working with people who are on disability, on welfare and so forth, and knowing kind of like secondhand how the situation is getting worse. And then when I turned 40, my own health started to kind of go weird around the same time that Ricky Gervais and some other people were doing a project called It's Okay to Talk, which is about men 40 and over are becoming a higher amount, or there's a higher number of suicides. And it's like, boy, that clicks, because it's like my health started going weird around that same time. And it's like, as a guy, it's like, well, you're supposed to just do it anyway. Just tough it out. You just do the job. Come on.
Yeah.
And it's like your body's going, I can't. Yeah. So, and then finally, I'd gone to UVic as an adult student because I was still trying to find any which way out of like, minimum wage jobs. So, I ended up at UVic as an adult student, and one of the things I took was sociology, which literally in the first term, one of the first modules you went through was how income dictates health. And so I had all this stuff kind of already backgrounded when in 2018, I saw this little thing that said like something about, it was about basic income. And for some weird reason, it didn't really click with me then. I don't know why. It was like, maybe I thought it was just somebody's idea or something. And I just went, yeah, you know what? I think we need something like that because, yeah, wages aren't catching up. And I just finished reading another thing about how 51% of Americans are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And of course, from Income Dictates Health, so much of that is about food because, like, as one person said, if you have like, if you're in some fictitious grocery store or something, and there's like, you have $5, you have a kid to feed, and there's an apple and a box of Kraft Dinner, it's pretty obvious which way you're going to go. You're aiming to make sure that everybody feels full and content and so forth. An apple's not really going to do that. So yeah, I reposted it, and I had one person go, "Hey, have you heard of Andrew Yang?" And that was it. And then about a year later, I ran into some other basic income stuff. This time I reposted it, and I got pushback. I got people kind of like, "It doesn't work, Tom," and somebody else like freaked out, and I'm like, that's so weird. You'd get this too. Well, wait, of all the things to be politicized, why are we being politicized about this? Yeah, I had a lot to learn. And then 1 year later was 2020. And of course, all hell had broken loose. And I saw this post by UBI Works with the guy holding the sign. The guy, looks about maybe my age, maybe a little older, holding a sign saying, "I work and I need a basic income." And I was like, yeah, me too. And so I signed the petition thing, sent it out, and I got all this appreciation and response. And at the time, I'd been working as a janitor, and to keep myself busy at work, because it's listening to music's fine, but it's kind of background on background, and it's also I'm trying to become trying to be a better musician. So I'd listen to playlists of like stuff like Rick Beato, Scott's Bass Lessons, Dan the Composer. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just take that whole thing and basic income. I want to know everything about it. So I started making playlists because I'm a janitor. I can't keep selecting another video. So it's like, okay, here we go. And as you can imagine, I couldn't believe my effing ears. It was like, like the history of it, the philosophy of it, how far back this idea goes, how we came so close to doing it around the time I was born. Like literally, the Dauphin Mincome experiment was announced in February of 1974. I arrived in March of 1974.
Oh.
If we had done it back then, I mean, who knows? We could have never seen a Canada with poverty. And it's just like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to advocate for. So I started like listening to stuff like crazy. Eventually, I created the Twitter because it was kind of taking over everything. And I had some experience like as a musician and songwriter, and I'd done filmmaking. So I was pretty good at kind of putting all these kind of things together. And eventually I had enough images. I started the Instagram. And so it just kind of grew from there. And the playlist turned into one of my bigger, I guess, contributions to the movement, which is the playlist list, which is connected to my WordPress site, which is basically, it's like a hub where it goes out to different playlists on YouTube. And what's funny is I actually made it on the old WordPress editor that you can't use anymore. So it's all kind of locked in place. And my old tablet was about to die. So in I think it was like UBI Now 4 or something, I typed at the bottom, look at the description of other playlists for more playlists. Because it was like, and dead. So yeah, let's see. That brings us there. Go ahead.
It's interesting that you say that you're a janitor, because I think I made the comment on our last show. Mm-hmm. I remember this was quite a while ago, but I remember hearing one of the commentaries was, that it's getting so bad that, I mean, it used to be that blue collar workers like janitors and people that are, say, waiters and waitresses and stuff like that could live and work downtown. Yeah. And now you're getting you have restaurants and office buildings that can't get cleaners and can't get waiters and waitresses because it's just too expensive to live downtown now.
That's it.
And it's just crazy, you have this big exodus of or people coming in from Abbotsford, you know. And it's just crazy. I mean, when I was a university student, there was lots of students that were able to secure housing downtown. I mean, it was just a cheap bachelor suite, but I mean, you could make it do with like $400 a month or something. That was a common. I mean, we're talking like 25, 30 years ago, but still, right?
Yeah.
And also too, like back when I was 27, which is almost again 25, 30 years ago, like my very first big job was with the provincial government. It was Ministry of Environment, and my first big job there, and the starting wage as a guy just starting out, it was $25 an hour to start.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, and now you look at I mean, people think of like maybe $17 an hour as a huge good wage now.
Yeah.
And I mean, and like 30 years have passed, and like I said, $25 like 25 years ago, I thought, well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you're $17 if you're lucky now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I remember years ago, hearing that, wages weren't high enough. Had the campaigns that were going on. The minimum wage was it was at like what, $8 an hour.
Yeah.
And then they kept saying, oh, well, we need to get it up to $10, right? $10, and because that was the wage, you're just going to get by. But the buying power. It just kept eroding and eroding away.
Yeah.
And kind of like my story on that one is kind of similar to what Neil's was in parallel. I worked for the Ministry of Education, advanced education, and my starting wage was 26.07 an hour.
Yeah.
And it was just summertime work, but it was for 2 years in a row, and it was a contract, and then everything went digitalized.
Yeah.
So I want to go back. They said, unfortunately, we don't need you anymore, right? And the catch was that you need to keep going to college or wherever. Well, I was already done, right? And of course, it went digitalized. But back then, I thought, wow, like this is a lot of money. I mean, you could get so much value for your dollar now. I mean, $26. I mean, people look at that and go, wow, And minimum wage, they say, oh, well, raise the minimum wage, but now everything else goes up, right? So now, like, people, they can't even afford their basic needs, let alone housing. And that gets into the other aspect is, recently the government announced a $125 increase to disability rates for those in market housing. Yeah, they're going to benefit from it, but in subsidized housing, no. Like, they're going to get a portion. They'll get a small portion of that. I think about $78 of that 125. So they're really not going to benefit the full amount. So there's that divide again of saying, well, 125, that's still not enough. That's going to push it to what, $500 for shelter? I mean, where can you rent for $500? I remember my mom, when I grew up as a kid, she had a whole house, Tom, and $475. A whole house.
Well, so, I wanted to get back to the salary though too, because I mean, you made a comment just a few moments ago saying, well, $25, what's the big deal? Like, who cares, right? It's not enough. But the fact of the matter is most of the jobs now are still like $17-18 an hour is considered, a decent job. Like, most of the jobs are underpaying as it is. People are having to take 2 jobs just to make do, right? Because the vast majority of jobs out there are actually in the $17 to $18 range now.
Well, the average rent around now is like $2,600 for a 1 bedroom. In Victoria, that is. But I mean, a lot of areas it's like $1,900-$1,900 if you're lucky to find it. And if you do, you have to kind of wonder, what kind of shape is it in?
It's like, this is one of the reasons I keep banging on about him, but I'm a huge fan of Professor Guy Standing. There's 3 books, like, he's been writing about advocating for basic income for about 30 years, but he has this series of books, Plunder of the Commons, I just said it. Plunder of the Commons, The Precariat, and Corruption of Capitalism. And it's like, as he describes, it's like these different things are creating the situation we have now. Like, I mean, I can go over to Robert Reich for a moment here, where as he explained, it's like minimum wage, if it had kept up with the cost, and Carl Weidekreis has said the same thing, if minimum wage kept up from the cost of living from 1968, it would be an American, as of like 2017, $24 an hour. Convert that to Canadian is 30. And this is where I'm like, when that one person talked about how the poverty line is probably not what it actually should be, I'm like, now that's starting to sound right. Everything is half of what it should be. So you take what welfare is. Welfare is not even half of what the poverty line is. So it's actually half of half. And it's not altogether shocking that the situations are as bad as they are. And then disability, of course, is half of, again. And and then while that's happening, we've had the stagnation of wages since 1971. We've had as Guy talks about, the precaritization of work, or I call it the fragmenting of it, where it's like, you'll have like gig jobs as opposed to actual work. Or they're more interested in hiring part-time or other things with where technology is kind of like, you can't have a platform economy without platforms. It's like Victor Schvetz, another person who I really like what he's written. It's like you have these 2 rising hurricanes of technology and financialization, with financialization taking more and more of the money, and that's where all the money is flowing up to. less stuff like your cell phone bill and rent and all these things. That's where it all goes. And of course, it also drives other costs up. And so, and then you have, as Guy describes, you have these feelings of chronic insecurity, and the precariat is, most commonly thought of as, the gig economy, precarious jobs. And it's like, well, that's part of it, but it's mainly that people feel like they're always having to ask for favors, like as he calls them, a supplicant, where you're constantly, pleading for favors and trying to get by. And okay, like you'll show up on a Monday and sorry, no work this week, and then, oh God, and and it's like we've gone from one guy full time to don't expect the same job your whole life, don't expect the same job your whole week, and as Victor Svets explains, it's like that's where like the value of work, or the percentage, what do you call it? Yeah, the cost of labor is getting closer and closer to zero. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, this is where basic income goes from being a good idea to absolutely essential, because it's only going to continue. It's like, this is what Shay Smith of the Homeless Idea podcast says. It's like people are joining us more and more all the time. And, it's like good to see people, but he's not meaning that in a positive way.
There was a clip from earlier today from Lee Gazan, MP in Winnipeg, Manitoba. She mentioned something about GLBI. I'm just going to play the little clip for you here. Yeah. Okay.
For Winnipeg Centre. Thank you so much, and thank you to my honourable colleague. We need to start talking about not the high costs of a guaranteed livable basic income. We need to start talking about the high costs of poverty. We have income guarantees in this country right now. My bill actually doesn't offer anything new. What I argue, though, is the income guarantees that we currently have in this country are not livable. GIS for seniors, an income guarantee, not livable. And we know that when you don't look after seniors, anybody, when you don't provide people what they need, it costs in other areas, healthcare, justice systems. So we know with a guaranteed livable basic income, we have income guarantees. We need to make them livable and expand them out for those who are falling through the cracks of our social safety net. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Right on, Leah.
Yeah, and that goes to show that it can be done.
Yeah. It's like Evelyn Forger. I mean, she was the economist who studied the Dauphin program. She saw how well that worked, and as she explained, you can literally just change what we're doing, use the same amount, spend it smarter, doing a basic income guarantee or basic guaranteed livable basic income. Speaking to what Cassandra was saying on the last show, yes, it should be livable. And it's not a panacea, as every supporter I know says. Like you put that as the base, and then like an additional amount for disability should be on top, additional amount for healthcare on top. I wrote a blog about this. To me, it's like we're going into a very, very different world of work and a very, very different world of everything. You also, I mean, if you believe in, as I do, in climate change, it gives people the ability. I wrote a kind of an op-ed on this called Care. It gives people the ability to switch into this new kind of way of living that needs to happen. And then also, if something does happen, like we had the heat dome here in Victoria, then you can adjust. Well, no, or British Columbia. Then you can deal with it. You can, if something happens, you have that little bit of security and stability to take it on. And it's like you have that, and at the same time, there was something that struck me, was where people on the left were getting concerned about Pierre Poilievre, who's interested in that idea of Milton Friedman's. And so it's like, holy cow, like the idea of Milton Friedman's is the negative income tax, which is the more, what's the word? A panacea silver bullet like version of guaranteed income. So it's like, okay, the way with everything rising like it is, and I work as a janitor at 2 dealerships. It's like the whole family is going to be buying a new car. We're buying a new family car. We don't want to be stuck with a lemon, so let's talk about it. And that's kind of how I do. Like that's the one. I think it's from being a non-economist and not really not like Joseph the numbers guy, which is why I kind of run my project like I do. I'm probably one of the few people who doesn't have like a favorite version of basic income. Like I want the UBI or I want the GLBI or the it's like I like to put all of it out there and go, here's the whole smorgasbord of all the possibilities. There's so many different variations, like, I mean, for instance, Leah Gazan and Kim Pate's version is it goes to every resident. Professor Guy Standing is it's a citizen's dividend. We can help people who are not citizens, but it should go to every citizen for kind of political pragmatic reasons, which I mean I can understand both sides of it. So it's like all these different conversations to have about, okay, how are we going to do this? And it also is good, I think, to show all the different versions and the whole story of it, because it helps to fight some of the disinformation. I think that's where we are right now, where we know this thing works. Like that's one of the reasons why jumping forward here, like mayors for guaranteed income and now counties for guaranteed income in the States. That's why it's caught on like wildfire, because Stockton was such a success that other mayors are like, well, I want in on this. So all of a sudden, the guy in LA, this guy in Chicago, they're all picking it up. So we know this stuff works. Like it's out there. Like it improves physical, mental, and even dental health, which happened in Dauphin, Manitoba. Like teenage pregnancies go down, child birth weights go up. People eat more fruits and vegetables. People consume less bads. Like people when we had the 3 unconditional cash transfers to unhoused persons in Liberia, London, and Vancouver, like every single time their social workers were like pleasantly surprised with the Vancouver one actually saving the shelter system $405,000 for the year. So it's just I feel like that where the movement is now, it's like it's gotten to the point where it's, I don't know if it's completely household name mainstream, but it's pretty darn close, like more than it was back in the old days. Because I mean, I asked my parents about, like, do you remember this stuff, and they're like, not really. So I guess if you were watching like the New York Times and you saw that article or something back in the 1968 or whatever, then you would have kind of been, oh, interesting. But it wasn't like it's like, as Carl Weidecke said, it's like each wave, 17 to 33, 65 to 78 or whatever it was, and 2013 to now, each wave has been bigger than the one before it. And so now it's all about like, okay, let's brush aside the misinformation. CERB, for instance, was, it was an emergency thing. There was a lot of other stuff going on. So, no basic income doesn't cause inflation. No basic income doesn't cause the labor shortage. There's other factors, as Iona Marinescu, American economist, said. It's like you can't expect everything to suddenly pull apart in like that and then suddenly click back into place. There's so many things that went down. Like you guys were saying, housing costs have continued to go up. There's guys that are like, there's people that are middle class living on Lagoon Road here in Victoria, and a guy who is a home builder living in his truck in Duncan. Like these are people that are middle class jobs. Yeah. And they can't find housing because, of course, with rentier capitalism, as Guy explains in Corruption of Capitalism, all that it makes all the assets go up. This is one of the reasons that UBI works with their Commonwealth Canada thing. They're looking at land value tax, which is better than property tax, to go after that kind of like vacant landlord thing and actually go after rentier capitalism. It's like how to pay for it with where it went. All of our money's gone up there. Well, then go up here. I remember
there was a contractor who would build these brand new places, and I watched Sonia and myself. We watched the build these there's a 5-story apartment building.
Yeah.
And I said, "Wow, isn't that a lovely place to live in?" He goes, "I could never afford to live in it. I built it. I can't live in it."
Yeah.
Why? He says, "Why?" He says, "Because I don't make enough money."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, go figure, right?
Yeah. Well, I remember listening to an interview. I don't know if it was on this. I think it might have been on this, but the person was talking about how they worked at like a grocery store or whatever, and they're like, you'd think there'd be some kind of discount. No. So you have people working at grocery stores who are starving.
Yeah.
It's like this is just insane.
I stepped away from the camera for a couple minutes, so I don't know if I missed a conversation point or not. I wanted to get your perspective on, like, part of the reason why I think there's been a reluctance to adopt a basic income. I think from a government level, is maybe that there's a fear that it's gonna erode the government power or destabilize the government power, in the sense that maybe there's this notion that if we give a basic income, like the public's not going to need all these government services anymore. Like, it's just going to be like this one basic income, and so all these other government services and government people are going to disappear or something. Is that just my notion, or
no.
or is that a common
I've heard that
thing?
one. I don't hear that one as much. Usually it's like from people who are more progressive, it's concerns about it being a panacea, which is kind of, I guess, is kind of the same thing, where it's like, concerned that it's going to be, there's a it often comes down to a question of scarcity and believing do we have enough to really do this? And it's like, the truth is, we have, as someone told Kim Pate, it's like, if we went after things like, I think he was talking about it was a conservative senator who was talking to Kim Pate, progressive senator, saying, if we went after things like money laundering and other forms of corruption, we could pay for every single thing you want to do and then some. So even in even though Canada is not we don't have, Canada isn't the home of Amazon and anything, we still have so much abundance that we can do a basic income. We can create, like, there's from Floyd Marinescu of UBI Works, there's even like the two things of, like, guaranteed income to deal with poverty, UBI, which can raise everyone up from the bottom without it as a dividend, like they do in Alaska, without it actually clawing back anything. And you don't, like Guy would say, you don't play golf with one club. Like, like, there's all these different, like, in fact, if anything, a basic income could actually make it so that accessing services is easier, or people have more time, and they have more bandwidth to be able to actually work on the thing and actually, meet with their worker or whatever. And from a worker's perspective, it's like they actually get to do what they went to university to do in the first place, as opposed to policing people's incomes and looking under the bed for two pairs of slippers. There's a really great book by Teresa Funicello called Tyranny of Kindness, and she was a welfare worker in New York in the 1980s or something like that. And she goes through, like, some of the challenges with the system and she ends up at a guaranteed income. But one of the things she points out, which is, and this is not a diss on food banks, because they're, most of them are volunteers, and they're trying to help, and like I say, any help we can do in the immediate is amazing. And Food Banks Canada itself and the Canadian Association of Social Workers, along with some other, like, Canadian Chamber of Commerce, are for a guaranteed income in Canada. But as she points out, it's like, because of all that, like, to have someone like, Mustard Seed, for instance, here in Victoria, it's down. They're usually in a downtown location. Someone's got to pay for the electricity. Someone's got to pay to get the stuff from Thrifties to the thing, and get a truck, and then fuel for the truck, and the truck needs to be repaired, and all these things. And so when you start with like a let's say a $2 head of lettuce, by the time that $2 head of lettuce reaches the person at the end, it's an $8 head of lettuce. Well, why not just give the person the $8? Well, we don't trust them with the money, so we create all these programs. And so much of this stuff also goes back to, like, the poor and undeserving poor stuff of 1834. Like, there's so much, like, learning about this subject. You end up digging into all these kind of dark corners of, like, the Protestant work ethic and meritocracy, and it's like this one thing that, it's like, nobody goes, I don't know, should we get rid of cancer? Nobody would say that. That's insane. But when it comes to poverty, people go, oh, I don't know, it's a disincentive. And it's like, it's that one subject that's, like, all the way back to, like, when Thomas Paine was first talking about it, and right after, right in kind of like near the French Revolution, after the, like, kind of the Black Plague and so forth, where his friend the Marquis de Condorcet said, why are we basing our working population on a game of chance? Why don't we make it so that they have like a social insurance? So that's where that kind of started. And then immediately pushback from guys like Thomas Malthus, who were like, nope, disincentive, and he had all these crazy things. And so this argument has just been going on for so long.
Well, well, I guess for me, like, to go back to the misinformation angle, because I hear that, like what I said earlier, I hear that quite a bit, where you hear people say, well, if you have a basic income, then you're going to be eroding other services. Other government services are going to disappear, or maybe different health benefits are going to disappear, or that kind of thing, right? And so, and I guess that's the $1 million question for a lot of people is what will the world look like with a basic income? Like will things disappear, or will they just be augmented, and will it be an add-on, and government services and things will continue as they are? I think that's the question in my mind too. Is like, how will that kind of coalesce and come together, like the two things?
It's one of those things where it very much depends on the advocate. In some versions, like the UBI idea of like Commonwealth Canada, or even probably Alex Howlett, who we had on before. I think even Guys is a little bit like this, or Yanis Varoufakis. He had the Greek economist. He had a version which in his video about what happens after capitalism, where it was like creating a commons capital fund where like they have 60 of these around the world, and that creates that floor, and literally it's like everyone's a shareholder in the country. And so, that's this money over here. It's not connected to anything else. It's not connected to programs or any services, and everything would stay in place. And you just literally raise everyone up. Like, it's like capitalism not starting at zero. It just, raises everybody up.
Yeah.
Leah Gazan, was it Leah? Sorry, Evelyn Forger. She was saying how, like, in her book, Basic Income for Canadians, it could be like just starting to cut more and more of the strings until it's starting to look like a GLBI, like increase the amount, make it so it's not as means testing, start doing those things and heading in that direction. And there's also how the different ways that like if we can get people off out of being homeless and reduce crime, like we've seen in pilots, if those things happen, the demand on these programs and services starts to go down, so they're actually able to do better. That's like the 8.5% reduction in healthcare costs in Dauphin. So
that's the other thing about the reducing, completely eliminating homelessness and crime levels. I mean, as we know, they've been really escalating a lot in British Columbia. I mean, especially in, like you've heard on the news, in Vancouver, Nanaimo, Victoria. Businesses, windows smashed in and grabbing people and getting desperate, right? And
that's what that was what I was going to say. Is poverty creates desperation, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the frustrating part. Where I guess my other topic that I was going to bring up to you is about the pilot project that they were going to do in BC. Basic income, and then it's just push. Like, it was a whole report. Man, it was over 5 pages, I think it was, right?
That report was from, as I learned from Susan Abels. Actually, one of the funny things about it was one of them, whether it was Green or Kresselman, I don't know. One of them was actually a junior researcher on the Dauphin program, and Ron Hickel was like, "When did he turn traitor?" But what happened was, let's see. Okay. What happened was the NDP wanted to kind of placate the Green Party in BC to kind of work with them on something. And so they said, okay, well, we'll do that basic income report for you. And then they hired at least 2 out of 3 of the main economists who, I mean, it took me one morning to find pre-report stuff where they were attacking basic income. like, you know, and some of the attacks weren't like, oh, I'm not sure about this or that, like you know, Neil's being, you know, Neil's concerns. It's more like every basic income advocate thinks it cures the common cold. And it's like, no, we don't. What are you talking about? Like, you know, every basic income advocate says it's not a panacea. So what? And so when you're starting with that, I mean, like Lindsay Tedds was on the panel with Floyd Marinescu and Evelyn Forger, so she's more kind of neutral to interested. But yeah, like I've listened to 2 talks by both of them, and they're blatantly against basic income. I mean, yeah. So, you know, I don't know. I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, we should, like, I mean, that's why they didn't have a pilot. Why would you have a pilot if you're not interested in the idea at all? They just kind of like, you know, made up their own minds. There is now from it came some good stuff, and I don't know if it was a local senator or even Evelyn who said it. I mean, I'm not sure, but you know, like a province can't really support a full basic income by itself. I mean, it doesn't have the full federal firepower. It can do some things. It can do pilots, or it can work with the federal government to do a pilot. Like right now, one of the things that's probably the most watched is Prince Edward Island, that has an all-party thing that's asking the Prime Minister's office to meet with them about a basic income. So much for Trudeau wants a basic income, because no, he's come down on the idea on multiple occasions, told Chrystia Freeland don't do anything permanent. So when people claim that Trudeau is trying to bring in the, you know, Klaus Schwab and his global shapers in the World Economic Forum, I'm like, oh, come on, really? Justin Trudeau has said he doesn't like it. I actually, in Victoria, took out the 3 books by Klaus Schwab, searched through the books, couldn't find basic income mentioned anywhere. I listened to the entire WEF thing for this year and last year, and it was like they came right up to my door and went, nope. Like they would be talking about, not my personal door, but like they'd be talking about like technology and jobs or something, and they'd be like, they talk about every single thing under the sun except for basic income. It's like, so no, they're not.
Like, oh, it's basic income. Oh, no.
Like they're all like, it was like even the guy from like the finance minister of China was talking about like investing in private enterprise. I'm like, aren't you the? No, don't worry about it.
That's like those. That's like those town halls that you and I have gone to, Brent, where they about the anti-poverty, like how to get people out of poverty, but it's like, don't mention anything about raising the rates. Talk about anything else, but don't talk about raising the rates. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Things are off the table.
It's like building like.
I went to a town hall meeting recently. So tell us what you want us to hear. Well, raise the rates. Well, you're going to give a $125 increase to the shelter. It's been frozen for what, 16 years?
Yeah.
But hey, in the provincial budget, we announced it February 28th, but you got to wait till July 19th to get that 125.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, how about now? Well, you gotta wait.
Yeah.
So we go to the local office. Well, how come you gotta wait till then? Oh, well, don't count on it coming any sooner. Well, why you gotta wait till then? Like, why not just raise the rates up?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I feel like it's so much of it comes back to that. Like I was reading Guy Books recently, that utilitarian thing of like, you know, wanting to support the middle class and those looking to join them, and then it just attacking and just pushing down and trying to steer people away from that so-called, you know, income of last resort. And you know, and so you get that means testing kind of attitude about things. And so of course, I mean, like, it's like they know it's a low amount. That's part of it. It's like it's you know, trying to find reasons to push people away. Like, I mean, you guys can tell me better than I know it, how even people like for like one person I've talked to has said that because she has an invisible disability, it took her forever to get on disability. So she was stuck on welfare for years and years and years and years. and being pushed back, even though she's got the doctor's thing and everything. And so it's like the low income is part of pushing people away. It makes it so that the amount at the end isn't that tempting. Like, I mean, I was on welfare for about a week and I saw the amount that I was getting. I'm like, oh my God. So I went back to work at Tim Hortons, even though I hated it. But it was like, I just, freaked out.
Well, you filled out,
Yeah,
you filled out a declaration form, and it says, have you been incarcerated in the last 30 days? Like, really? Is that how we treat our citizens? Like, who's disabled? I mean, but the problem is that the policies are blended for people on income assistance and who are disabled. They put it all into one. Yeah. And then they wonder, well, are you have anything else to declare? Is it employment income? Oh, you have to declare it. But if it's CPP. Oh, and then of course, Neil, you'll talk about this part. I know this is your expertise.
The unicorns, the pink unicorns.
Yes. The unicorns. Oh, but it's employment. But yeah, you can have it. But anything else? Well, then it's over to you, Neil, on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that just is crazy that. They take something like a pension, and I mean, I'm no lawyer. I don't know legislation, but I mean, I've looked at enough legislation, like labor codes and stuff like that, to know that pensions are very, very well protected by their labor laws, right? Yeah. I mean, if you have a pension, it's very well protected under all these kinds of labor laws, and yet if you're on disability, like on social assistance, it's like, well, you have a pension, great. We'll take that away from you. It's like, it's no longer a protected income anymore. It's like, it's like, the government says, well, we'll support you up to 100%, provided that your spouse is, doesn't die or whatever, like in my case. But it's, as soon as your spouse dies, it's like you're SOL, because we're going to claw back your survivor's pension as an unearned income, and to me, that's the pink unicorn I keep talking about. It's just crazy.
Well, it's like, wow, it's like give somebody that extra money, or allow them to have that extra money that was been paid into. So here's an example too. I remember years ago where my mom used to shop always at the co-op area, and the thing is, as a member, and I mean, technically, I still have a membership. I bet if I punched it in, it would probably pop up, but I haven't used it in many years, so it's probably expired by now, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, so she used to do all of her shopping there, because it was local. I mean, why not? I mean, they got to know her, me, and I mean, hey, I used to do work experience at the co-op, so, and then they gave me actual part-time job out of it, actually, after doing the work experience, cleaning up this and that, and I got to do all the sample stuff, and a cookie company would come in, put some samples here, it's a cookie. So here I grab a handful of cookies. Hey, just take one. Come on, Brett. I grabbed like 3 of them. I
used to bake it. Yeah, I used to bake it, Tim's. That was,
but they were good.
Those would break my cookies, so they could that one's broken. Okay.
Yeah, well, those are broken. Yeah. Oh, that was broken. Oh no!
Darn.
Shoot, But yeah. So then they used to joke around with me. Of course, I was always the short guy, so they would get me, and then they'd put me on top of the big freezers. Yeah. I go, hey, where is he? I go, hey, I'm up here. So, but just joking around about that part where, it came down to that sense of being part of the community, right? Yeah. So my mom did a lot of shopping there. So when she did a shopping, well, here's you get a dividend. And how it works that you get a dividend on how much shopping that you do in a year. So they'll give you a check back as the royalty on how much you've spent. Well, one year she got back $1,800.
Wow.
$1,800. Well, of course she had a little hobby farm too, so she bought a lot of feed for her animals. And oh my God, we had 12 cats, Tom. We had 2 dogs and chickens and ducks, and she had a pet potbelly pig just as a family pet. She had to put it down, and they all got buried in the backyard. I felt sorry for whoever got that
What is
that? But anyway, so the long story on that scenario was, so she got a dividend check back. She's a senior. So guess what? They actually clawed it off her because it was actually classified as unearned income. She earned it because she paid into it, but she gets a royalty back saying, thanks for supporting the community. Here's your money. But then the government goes, no, you can't have that. But she didn't know. She spent it. She went away. She gets a call from her worker, who the worker was in charge of people on disability, also in the same office. So I got to know who the worker was, and I said that is totally unfair. Like you're saying, yeah, you can have it, but you can't have it. We're going to claw it off you. And I said, like, the system is so corrupt. I even said that to my mom, saying, and she goes, Brent, I go, it is, like, it's messed up, you know. And then go fast forward, I mean, and I hear what Neil's going through, like, the system has to be changed, and that's why basic, a guaranteed income is going to help so many people that are suffering, that don't need to be suffering. I mean, it eliminates homelessness. I mean, look at all the amount of people that are homeless right now. It's growing. It's not going to get, I mean, I've seen it over decades. I mean, we've all seen it. One of my neighbors, he walks around here neighborhood all the time. I see him, and he's way up there. And he said he's seen it over decades. And he said there's no easy solution. And I said, well, what's your solution? He says just give them more money.
Yeah.
And the thing about basic income too is there's no barrier to entry either, right? Like in my case, we're talking about clawbacks. I mean, when you talk about clawbacks, you're basically cherry picking and saying, you know, this is okay and this isn't okay. This is okay and this isn't okay. And so you're like have all these pots of money and say, well, this pot of money is fine. This pot of money is not okay. This pot of money is fine. This pot of money is not okay. And you know, with the basic income, it's like everybody's on the same level and entitled to the same thing.
You know, it's like this is the interesting thing about what happened in Finland, where like all of a sudden you saw this increase in trust. And it's like, you know, because it's like you're being trusted with it as opposed to basing everything on suspicion. I was also thinking about two things. One is how, pardon me, Shay Smith of the Homeless Idea podcast, as he said, it's like when you basically, as an unhoused person, you're carrying around your turtle shell. You know, your basket or all your belongings are with you all the time. You can't really go to your employer and go, can I put these here? Or, you know, or whatever, you know, with your, can I leave my dog here with you? No. So it's really hard to switch in. Like if people just have that little bit of something, that little, you know, no matter what level it is, I mean, preferably a livable amount, of course. But I mean, like a livable amount, you can go, right, I'm going to put this into a flat. And then I can put all my stuff in it, and then I can lock it, and then I can actually go to work, and I've actually got an address. Like things start to fall into place, and you see this happening in every single pilot, where people, like I say, they start making all those choices that anybody would make because people want to improve their lives. Like I'll get back to this other point in a moment, but I'm now on a roll. It's like when I was a kid, I grew up like I was very lucky because I had both parents, and you know, and you know, kind of like Elliot from E.T., right? Where like, you know, there was always food in the fridge and whatever, and there wasn't any aliens, unfortunately. But but it's like, you know, it wasn't like, hey Tom, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? Nothing. Like that's not a thing. Like all kids want to do stuff, and there's also and when it comes to being cooperative, there was a study done by Michael Tomasello, who is I wrote this down. Oh, I can't find it. Michael Tomasello, who is a developmental psychologist with kids. And so he did this experiment where he had a toddler who'd be sitting in a room playing with blocks, and an adult would walk into the room holding an armful of books, and he kind of, the adult would go over to the bookshelf and like struggle and pretend to struggle to put the books away. In every experiment with different kids, the kid would come over to the adult and like try to help. We're born driven, we're born cooperative, and basic income would help in creating that sense of time. Like there's a book, when Guy puts it out, I'm going to be racing to the bookstore to get it, and I don't care the cost. It's called Politics of Time, because like so much, it's like that ability to give, like the most common thing that people say is it gave me a feeling of breathing room, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah. But the other thing I was thinking about was like, the one thing that drives me absolutely crazy is every Christmas since CERB, every Christmas they announce, well, we're going to start clawing that back. I mean, retailers must be freaking out. Like, don't tell them that now.
Exactly.
Basic income. It's like all of a sudden everyone's like, timing. Well, I guess I won't spend. what? This money doesn't disappear. It goes right back into the economy.
Yeah.
And it as Guy said, it's like the stuff I was posting last night because I saw this it's inflationary nonsense. And it's like, no, when you create aggregate demand, then all of a sudden it's like otherwise it's like one-handed scissors. It's like all of a sudden then stores are like, well, I'll bring in some more people. I'll start making more stuff. Stuff starts to happen, and good economic activity starts to happen, and people people want the better thing. They it's like there's this kind of green version of the cigarettes and alcohol argument, which is like, oh, everyone will spend it on like gas and cheeseburgers. It's like, no, because you can, like, people want to move towards the better thing, and we can. It's so much of it is about how we view each other, how we believe in each other, how we believe that we can do this, and that's why I wrote that little blog called Tragedy to Trust, which is that so much of it is like we have to trust our institutions again, we have to trust each other again, that we can actually do this, and then we get into that loop where basic income creates that society based on trust, and then it starts to work. Like you think back to like. When I was a kid, we had the books on like the future and how the future, like you saw those cars that all look like spaceships, and we had like
Back to the Future.
Yeah, we had his boy Elroy, come on, the Jetsons. That was it. George Jetson worked.
Yes,
George Jetson worked.
My favorite.
Yeah. He worked.
George Jetson.
Yeah.
His son Elroy.
He worked a grueling 9 hours a week for Mr. Spacely, and it's like and John Maynard Keynes said the same thing, and David Graeber, when he was talking about bullshit jobs, he was like, we really could have done that because we like most of our jobs aren't in manufacturing or agriculture anymore because we've automated that, and now it's most in tertiary like service stuff. And a lot of that is like a lot of that's there's some really
or like the Flintstones, right? I mean,
it's like you don't, and then people are just like trying to keep themselves busy because they have to work, they have to make enough because each job isn't enough. And then there's also this kind of thing of job is a good work is somehow a good in and of itself, even if it's nonsense. And it's like we can start freeing ourselves up to start moving into those jobs of care, like where you're caring for the environment, caring for family, there's so many things we need to
endless do. Like it's there's an opportunity that I mean opportunity knocks, and you just give the people the resources, the money that they need, and they can put it back into the communities that they live in, and everybody will prosper. I mean, God forbid
their
if
enthusiasm
they want to branch off to somewhere. And no, you can't go. Like I was saying.
One of the things I wanted to say is like a lot of our social assistance systems all across the country, like here in BC, we have the PWD income assistance, but that whole system is there's so much stigma there, right? It's like it's such a negative thing, and it's like it's designed to make you fail, basically, to make everybody on it fail. And so it's like it's kind of like this what is it going to call it, like self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like if you build it like you want people to fail, they're going to fail, right? So
like the American guy said, like
why don't you build a system that's built better so that people can succeed and say, we don't all think you're criminals.
Yes.
When's the last time you were in jail? Like let's get rid of that stigma, and let's build a social assistance system that's built on like this thing of trust and this goal towards success and building people up, rather than like assuming they're all going to fail and they're all like criminals and whatever.
And it's like they dated back to like the hundreds of years ago when it was made. Oh no, it's already archaic. But going that way, status quo, but it can't be status quo anymore. Like it has to change. Like you need to modernize things and grow with the times. And your model, like what you want to mention here, and it's going to help so many people, Tom. And I mean, it's great. Tom, like I wanna have you come back on as another segment. Like we're gonna continue on doing this for sure.
We can
thank you.
keep going if
I know,
you,
like,
if you want. Because like my wife is gone for another hour or something, but it's up to Tom. We're up to the hour, but we can go more if you want to.
Or we can have you come back on another day. Yeah, we can continue this too.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I think I don't like there's it's always weird because like the information is kind of out there on a lot of these things, like Article 25 of the I was just posted this morning of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights advocated for something that kind of screams basic income, and then you can't really have security of the person, Article 7 of the Canadian Charter, without there being enough money when money is what you need for a livable life in Canada. So, but it's like I feel like technology is one of the things that kind of brought this third wave. Like there was the Oxford report in 2013 that said 47% of jobs are going to go. That's one of the things that brought it to Reddit, which then brought Scott Santon's online. And it's kind of like it's almost like it's kind of like pushed. It's like Guy said, it's like it's not necessarily a person who goes at it from a technology angle, but he's like, it's been quite useful as it's made us quite popular. It's like all of a sudden it's because it's like technology is like forcing the issue, and so people are now looking more and more basic income, especially with the recent thing with ChatGPT, where I mean I think I used the GPT 3.5 a little while ago, and yeah, it was amazing. You can ask it any obscure thing and it gives you the answer in a few seconds, and then you have kind of what's happening with robotics, and somebody's already talking about it with like ChatGPT 5. They're already talking about 5, which is by itself scary, and then you just put 5 inside of a robot, and it's like, oh shit,
I saw this one out, and they
things
showed
just go wacky,
this one robot that's going to be coming by about tables, and delivering your order to the table.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like.
Just the first stage, right?
I like seeing the videos, the YouTube videos of you have Siri, and then you have the Google Home, and what's the other one, and they're arguing with each other, it's so funny. It's like, it's like, wow.
Robots are arguing.
That's not logical.
Yeah.
Deprogram.
But it's like there's the two videos I always remember, like, and these are old videos now, which is crazy. Like Amazon, I was talking to the folks at Commonwealth Canada about this. The Amazon Go and Amazon Fresh grocery stores, where you walk up to the store, you like kind of scan your phone, it lets you in, and then it's watching you in the ceiling with all the cameras. You pick something up, walk out, and it dings your account. So they have that. Floyd was like, yeah, I went to one of the ones in the States, and they have like, it sounds like canned talking in the back or something like that, so it doesn't sound so creepy.
Wow.
So there was that one, and that's old technology now. But there's also the one that was the Google Duplex, where it can phone and make appointments for you in the background. Like it can actually call someone, and the person they're calling thinks they're talking to a human when they're actually talking to a robot, and it can like roll with what the person is saying. So if the person suddenly gets confused, the robot can go like, okay, sure, no problem. It's like, holy cow.
There was a recent newscast. I think it was in China, wasn't it? Or no, it wasn't in China. It was in it was a Punjabi one. It was a news station. I just saw it on Global News recently. They had one on there. It was the robot was so realistic looking and sounding, and they couldn't really tell the difference.
Yeah.
And the person could work 24 hours a day, really.
Yeah.
So it's like there's that direct thing. Like I work as a janitor, and I've joked with my dad. I'm like, okay, I'm less expecting that a 6-foot janitor robot's gonna show up and go, Tom, you have been let go. Thank you for your service. It could happen, but it's also how like jobs, like I said before, like they're getting more and more fragmented. Like, maybe one of my contracts will go like, we could do a lot of online sales. We don't need to be like, because like I think that's why so many of my contracts right now are dealerships and things, because it's kind of, they're still kind of in that kind of auto mall world. But when they start kind of going more in the direction of like one of mine does online sales, And it's like, yeah, we could keep all the stock in Goldstream and just keep a small store downtown. Do we need Tom? No, we could probably do the place with a Roomba, and then we'll just keep it clean ourselves. So there's stuff like that that can also start to happen. You know, when people move towards a 4-day work week, then service workers are like, oh shit, what happens on that 5th day? You know. So there's all these other things, and then the robots are doing that as well. So, you know, it's like we can drive towards actually trusting ourselves enough, believing in ourselves enough that we can free people up, like, you know, like Bertrand Russell wrote about in Praise of Idleness. You know, like there was I wish I could figure out what rock musician this was. A friend of mine who's a guitarist, he worked with this one guy who's like a top guy. I don't remember if it's the guy from Sloan or something, but he was talking to him, and he's like, you know, man, sometimes your best creativity just comes from like sitting there and just kind of staring at the wall. Like sometimes having that ability to have that kind of complete downtime is actually what makes the really good stuff. It doesn't need to be like this all the time, you know. Like
Yeah. In the meantime,
So-
just give them a derb too, eh?
Hmm?
In the meantime, just give them a derb.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So what's your view on derb, Tom?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I'm the basic income guy. I'm all about income support, and like anything is good. Anything is better. It's like anything's better than this. It's like, you know, a derb should be like that kind of underneath support that goes to every single person who's on disability, and you know, it will do exactly what, you know, basic income as it says on the tin. You know, like, you know, it goes back into the economy. It's, you know, it stimulates the economy in a good way. People, you know, yeah, all the, you know, it's all there. And we can do it, and we should do it, especially with, I mean, MAID's a whole conversation in and of itself, and I do believe that, you know, like MAID is fine as long as your reason for it is because of the kind of reason that MAID, you know, should exist, which is it's, you know, you're nearing the end, it's going to be extremely painful, those kinds of things. But if it's like we can make it so you don't have to do that, and all it takes is in a financial situation, then it's like, well, yes, then we can do that. Like, you know, it's so obvious that what a person needs is this, then we can do this, you know, and we're all better off for it. Like, you know, I don't like, I get really frustrated with the idea that there's, you know, this idea that people, like, there's these, you know, successful people, and it's like, no, we're all one family, and people are connected to each other in so many different ways, like kind of like six degrees of separation or whatever. It's like there's no such thing as a person that oh, well, not you know, why support them? Like, they're part of our overall family, and you know, yeah. And
it's like rocks in a pond. I
Yeah.
like that one where you throw a
Yeah.
rock in a pond and you have ripples.
You know,
Everybody,
it's like,
everybody has a ripple effect, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's like, you think about like
Throw the rock and it would skip along, eh? To see if I can get that rock in the water, right? And
Yeah.
ripple in the water.
I was thinking like the Zelda game where you know, like there's those little kids at the beginning of the game that he hangs out with. Now, you know, those kids, if they, you know, they brought a spear and come along, they'd be toast. But they're the reason Link does what he does. They're the strength behind his uniform, you know. And so, like, yeah, like there's all kinds of different ways. It's really hard to go into this, but
it really puts stress. It really puts less strain on the healthcare system.
That's exactly.
By giving people more money, because then less strain on the healthcare system. Otherwise, strain on the healthcare system. Now it depletes down their overall health.
Yeah.
It diminishes down. They become either homeless or other chronic health conditions. And then they say, "Oh, you're now in that state. Oh, I guess you want MAID."
Yeah. And
well, no, I don't want MAID. I didn't want it. It was, you know.
Yeah.
And
It's like,
I remember hearing so many stories about there was a person living in a. I think the media they called her Jane Doe, or they gave her a different name because she didn't want to, you know, really talk about her story. Well, it was a situation where she lived in a housing where it was a lot of chemical intolerance, I think it was, and then it was just her living condition wasn't exactly the best. Yeah. So, you know, she couldn't find housing, so now basically put her health at risk.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many stories about that, and I think COVID, during then it had really brought out a lot of these problems in society. It's them saying there's the crime levels on the rise, there's homelessness on the rise, there's income insecurity, the housing, it's everything. Just get them more money.
COVID highlighted so much of what's wrong, and so many people who never thought they'd have to apply for income support before, all of a sudden had to, and realized how complicated it all is. There's also what I just remembered what Hugh Siegel said. It's like the cost of keeping somebody unhoused is about, with all the emergency care and everything, is like $54,144 per year. Incarcerated 125,466.
I was just
Meanwhile,
going to say,
if you have a person with a DERB or a basic income or a better version of CDB than we're hearing, then all of a sudden that money, all of a sudden they're an agent in the economy doing all kinds of things, and it's making stuff happen, and shifting from that to this. I mean, there's no logical reason to keep welfare like it is. There's no logical reason to keep the means testing like it is. There's that thing that just happened in the UK where Theresa Coffey, who's the head of the finance for the UK Conservative Party over there, and it's like they tried to suppress that the means testing and sanctions are actually completely ineffective, because of course they are. And I just had a blank. But this is what I do. I kind of go, but yeah, like, I can't recover from it.
it's all good. It's all good.
This is why I usually do like speeches.
Hang on, wait.
Well, if I can add in there, Tom, because this is where I thought you were going, is back in 2013, 2015, when it was firmly settled that ODSP is where it's going to land in supports, right?
Yeah.
And I knew, like, economically, I'm like, well, I used to work and now I don't work and nothing's affordable. But this was back in 2013 to 15, right? And myself, because I wanted to see, okay, where can I go? And anyways, things were looking really dire in Ontario, and then we had an election. What helped, what actually gave me some peace of mind, as terrible as this is that I knew in other countries where the systems were similar, like in the UK, people felt just as oppressed by the push to push disabled people back into the workplace, right? And it's never gotten better from that point on. Right. But I felt so alone in 2013 and 15, thinking, okay, well, it's just me. I'm the only one that's, staring down this abyss of, I'm never going to financially recover.
Yeah.
And,
go ahead.
Well, it's just that CERB was that opportunity that, for the rest of Canada to understand what we're going through, and especially when they're talking about the clawbacks, at Christmas time, to be throwing that back in their faces that, hey, you needed this assistance, a year ago. Well, now we're going, your taxes this year are not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
I remember a place, Bertie and Tom and Neil, we lived in Langley at the time, and this brand new, purpose-built rental, they're built like condominiums. They're all still purpose-built rentals, doesn't matter, right? But so they're a rental property, and there was, it was right when they were handing out CERB. Everyone say, and I remember hearing that, just apply for it. We'll figure it out later. Telling people, and this guy says to me, I'd see him all the time there, and he lived with his mother there, and he says, "Oh, Brent, you should apply for CERB. You go, you can get up to $2,000 on top of that." I'm like, "No, I'm not interested." No. They're telling people on BC on the disability they can keep it. I go, who said that? Who said that they can keep it? No. They're gonna, even back then I said no. They're gonna want that money back. No,
that's why I didn't get it either, because I knew they were gonna.
I had that gut instinct. I said no, they're gonna want the money back. Oh no. He says I applied for it. What? Oh, I applied for it. And the government said, "Oh no, I wouldn't do that." Even the BC ministry told him I wouldn't do that. So he went ahead and applied for it. I said, "Oh well, what'd you do?" "Oh, I went and bought this, and I went and bought that, and I'd see big giant 60 or 72-inch screen TV boxes in our garbage and fish tanks, aquariums. I mean, wow, all this stuff, home entertainment systems, and I'm thinking, wow, what's going to happen?" So anyway, long story short, fast forward months.
Yeah.
We went by there. We had moved, and then we moved to Victoria, right? We went back and checked out the old hood. So we went by. I saw him. He didn't look so good.
Right.
Well, guess what? He lost his place.
Oh God.
Because they took all the money off him. They
Yeah.
took it all off him.
Yeah.
I told him, don't do it. Like I warned him. Even back then, I didn't really know it, but I said, I have a gut instinct. Don't do it, man. Just don't do it. He didn't listen. And then, of course, now he was already struggling paying his rent. The rents were already high. Now, when we moved out of there, our same place that we had, Tom, it was $17.75. It's now going for $25.60.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Like, wow, like that's crazy, right? And then they have trouble renting it. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's these corporate landlords. They just keep on coming like vultures. They just, hey, someone can rent it, and then they move out. They'll just jack it up again, right? And,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I guess one of the questions I had was, it might be a tough question, but put you on the spot. It's like, what do you think about like rent control or rent cap or like there's different words to it. I mean, some people call it tie the rent to the unit, not the tenant.
Yeah, like BC Acorn.
I know in Port Coquitlam they've done it and it's been very successful. Other communities, they don't. They seem to kind of shy away from it. I don't know. Maybe it's other influence. I'm not sure. I know provincial government does not want to go there on that one.
Yeah. Rent caps are like again, it comes back to the idea is not a panacea. You can have other things like rent caps as well. It also helps that, because the conversation with basic income often gets hit with the rent subject. There's the fact that let's see, that your money goes with you anywhere you go, and you have as it's still kind of like a market economy. So if you're able to actually put the money together and this landlord's jacked their rent and this one hasn't, well, then I'll go with him. So that helps. And then you can also, like, people can combine rents, like Yang was talking about this, where people can combine rents and go, oh, we'll do this thing over here, we'll buy this fixer-upper. And there's also that with Canadian like with the GLBI, which is what it is, even with the UBI that gets taxed back afterwards, that if you're wealthy, that is, that it's not like a landlord would know how much you're getting if they try to I'll put up 2,000. Well, I'm not getting 2,000. How much are you getting? I'm not telling you, because depending on what your income already is will depend on what the GLBI is. It's almost like a GST check where it's like, imagine a GST check monthly that you can actually live on. So some people don't get GST check because they're making a lot, or some people get some GST check or very little. It'd be kind of like that. So it'd be kind of hard to be able to tell how much the person's actually getting to claw that away with rent. But we should, I'm a complete supporter of BC Acorn or Acorn. What was it?
Acorn Canada.
Yeah. And what they're trying to do as well. We need all these things in place. Which that's what the whole neoliberal thing was. It was getting everything out of the way of the market and investing in shareholders, and so all the money went whoosh like that, and money started going down for everybody else. And of course, all that did was, as people more economically minded than me can explain how all that did was they just invested in assets and then invested in properties, and next thing you know, you've got it's like, as Guy said, it's like neoliberalism led to austerity, led to rentier capitalism. We're not even in neoliberalism anymore. They're neoliberal ideologies. But neoliberalism is all about free market, and we have the least free market ever, because there's interest where they'll lobbying and stuff like that on the part of industries to government. So it's very much the tail wagging the dog. And
Yeah.
so the idea it's a free market, no, not anymore. It isn't. Like that's that's what Guy talks about in Corruption and Capitalism, where you have stuff like the ISDS, where what was it? These guys will it's this kind of thing that will, if a government does something a company doesn't like, so if the government comes down on some company because they're dumping sewage or something, the ISDS will team up with the company to go after the government. And what was it? It was like in Venezuela, a company was already struggling with poverty. They got 900 million out of that government. It's like, oh, you sons of! It's like, where's the money going? Up and out,
Yeah.
So
Well,
like,
I had a gentleman who basically lost his unit in the building here. Too bad, so sad. It's good for me, really. It was a real headache. but I thought he was the original tenant.
Right.
Well, what happened was there was a couple elderly people came along, and I saw them out there walking with him one day, walking with the dog.
Yeah.
And there's no pets allowed in this building. Well, they came in the building with the dog. These old people came out. Where are they going? And all of a sudden I hear his pitter patter on top of my floor.
Right.
And I thought, wow, like you can't be doing that. So long story on that one is they rented it out to their son. Their son was living here. He was in pain. The management was trying to get him out. Well, actually, what it was is that the original tenant, now they're pissed because now they lost their investment,
Right.
their income. I mean, their rent. Yes, they must have been renting since this building was built way back in 1967. So they must have been one of the original tenants, I'm guessing, and their rent is rock bottom. I mean, probably maybe in the 800 something range, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
More likely. So now, since the management's like, yay, sky's the limit, right? Because they're now going to rent it out for $1,750.
Yeah.
Next month. So it's been nice and quiet, Tom. It's been so nice and quiet. Yay! Yeah, they said, but don't worry. There's a university student's going to be moving in there, so he's apparently nice and quiet. Well, we'll see. But you know what I mean? But that's the point is that there's no rent cap.
Yeah.
So, they can just, of course, they're going to be happy. Almost $1,000 increase per month. I mean, that's $12,000 a year. Yeah. And then there's like 5 or 6 units in that building that are empty.
Yeah.
So, it's like the price just goes right up. And, there was a couple that just moved from Winnipeg, Manitoba. They moved here just over a year and a half ago now. They actually now have to move back. I just found out they're actually going to be having to move back to Manitoba because they can't find anywhere to live. Yeah. Well, they live 2 doors down from here in the same company that we rent from, but a different agent group.
Right. Yeah.
And that I'm glad that we're not run by the same agent group because apparently they have rats inside their building.
Oh God.
And they said when they moved in, was there any rats or anything? No. Well, they've had a major rat infestation. A company tried coming in, getting them out. They can't get rid of them, and it's apparently getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
So now they're scared because they looked around and they $2,650. He told me one place. The other one they found was, I think it was in Esquimalt. They went to, and $1,900. But it was not in good shape. It was just one of those little burners on there, just a heat. Yeah. Just a hot plate, I guess it is. No living room, no nothing. Yeah. They got a little child. I mean, so they told us just last night was we got some news for you. We're going to be moving back. I go, what? Where? Back to Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm like, oh no. They're like, yeah, we're going to be going in September. And I'm like, we just can't find anywhere affordable. And we're going to stick it out. They said in our building until we've got to move, and then I think they'll stay with their mother because his mother lives in this building. So they're going to probably stay with her until September 15th. That's when the flight goes. And so, I mean, that's the thing, right? That's just one story amongst I'm guessing probably tens, hundreds of thousands or millions of other people across the country that the rates are so suppressed. Like what you mentioned, Neil, on that one, like the system is designed to suppress things down, and having a GLBI or a basic income a model anything that's going to help people across the country. I mean, seniors. I remember so many stories. I used to be cool. She posts a lot of this stuff on Twitter about that, like emphasizing how important it is to have an income or 65 years. Oh, it just stops. Like now they're that GIS. Like Lee Kazan was talking about that in that video segment that I about seniors, that their GIS and OAS, right? It's so suppressed, and so when they get to that level, if they're disabled, they lose that disability status.
Yeah.
But now what they get? Like there was a gentleman who had mentioned so many times, like he had said, well, now he lost his disability status. He's a senior. He's still disabled.
Less? I think
so.
Less. Yeah.
Less. And so now he's disabled. He's a senior, but he's not disabled according to the government.
Yeah.
I mean, and that tells
you're
me
cured. All of a sudden, you turn 65 and you're cured of everything.
And I wonder, like, why he's so upset at the system, because it's the system how it's designed. And I mean, I remember having these discussions with my mom, God rest her soul. But I said, well, what happens when you turn 65? Like they take all these extra incomes away from you. Like you can't you have to have that.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, like, so, I mean, having modernized, coming with a basic income and modernize it to help people across this country succeed. I mean, as we know, CERB, like you mentioned, CERB, it showed that now people are suffering. They're going, oh, so I remember before CERB came out, people were saying, disabled, well, raise the rates, this and that, and they're like, oh, now you notice that it seems to it has toned down a bit. There's still a little bit of lashing, but now people are suffering, going, oh, okay, that's what they're going through.
Yeah, like you guys were like like the non, people who are not on disability. It's like you realize that like at 2000 you were doing okay, while these folks are living on far less than that.
Less than 50%,
except for in the Northwest area in Yukon. But like nobody crosses the poverty line, and in the out east they don't even have a disability amount. And so CERB, I mean, like it had things about like it was conditional, so it wasn't basic income in that way. It was money that was thrown straight out the door, so it wasn't a basic income in that way. But otherwise, it was like people got to experience so this is what a basic income is kind of like, and this is fine. It's like, and also during the pandemic, everyone was like, there was all the talking about like people learning to bake sourdough and stuff like that. It's like we are a busy bunch. When you give us time, it's like we find something else to do. Like we wouldn't have made it here, and that's one of the things. Like so much of our technology comes from our shared private investment. Like that's one of Guy Standing's. Like a guy starts every speech like this, which is, I see basic income as a matter of social justice before it becomes about what it can do. It's like the income of any one of us has far more to do with the efforts of everyone that's come before than anything we do ourselves. And we don't know whose income, who did what work or who made what contribution. And as we allow every form of private inheritance, we should allow basic income as a form of public inheritance. And it's also how like the commons was enclosed. The commons, for instance, was something that was enshrined in the Charter of the Forest 1217. And it was put forward kind of interestingly by the finest knight who ever lived, Sir William Marshall, first Earl of Pembroke. And they were a bit sly about it, because basically the king was about 10 years old, so he had no idea what he was sealing. And what it did was it deforested the land and gave the land back to the people. So like I was talking about recently, in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, there's that boy at the beginning who's in trouble because he shot a deer. Well, once that Charter of the Forest went through, he's fine, because if you shoot the deer in the woods, it's the commons. You can do whatever you want. And
Robin Hood
he was in trouble. It was on the king's land.
There was one about Robin Hood, Prince of cell phones too. We had one. What do we call him? Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like from that point on, the enclosure movement happened, which made it so that you couldn't live directly off the land, and that's what Carl Weidekris is talking about when he says, no one should come between anyone and the resources they need to survive. And so basic income helps to make up that difference with something that's funny enough. It's like this is one of the reasons that communists aren't really. People say it's communism. It's like a lot of communists don't actually like it, because some do, because they like how it helps people and so forth, but some don't, because they're like, no, I want capitalism to fail so we can take over. And so like, this kind of like basic income works like capitalism with like a fuel injection system. So it's always and you can toggle it so that it's working at its most efficient, which is what Alex Howlett talks about.
You know
So
how
it's
many
like all these
times,
different sources,
how many times during CERB people were panic shopping? They were grabbing because they were
Yeah.
worried they're gonna run out of income. So they were grabbing toilet paper, paper towel, everything.
Classically. Yeah.
And then you walk into a store. I went to Save on Foods, completely empty. I'm going, oh no, I need some of the basic toiletries here.
Yeah.
And I'm running around from store to store to store. I'm laying there going, oh my gosh. And then they're only can now 5 people in at a time. What?
Yeah.
And I'm lying long lineups, and I get in there and nothing in there. I'm going, oh my god. Next door, same thing. It took me like I think 6 hours from store to store. I had to go all the way up to Surrey, Tom. I had to go all the way up to Surrey, take the transit bus out, and then they had a transit strike.
The quest for toilet paper.
And I finally did. I went all the way out to where was it? Oh, out to Guildford. I went all the way to Guildford, and I finally found it out there. Yeah. But I mean, and there was just almost like a fist fight. No, I get down there. People are like, whoop, right down the aisle. I just whoop in there.
Yeah.
Yay!
I missed it by a fraction. It was like we all went to kind of Costco in like beginning of March, so things were starting to heat up. You like, there's a lot more people in here than normal. And then I was everything kind of started. Like, I'm in a Celtic band, and so it was like right in the middle of St. Patrick's Week. All of a sudden, it's like,
Yep.
So yeah. But it was like that, and what happened. All these kind of things, stuff can just happen.
Yeah, I mean, but you look back at the need that what people's the needs were. It told them they were worried that they were going to run out of supply. So and a lot of them just kept on buying the cheaper items, and then they left the more expensive items in the store. Well, then it's like if you didn't get that CERB, you know what I mean. And now of course, a lot of people didn't qualify. There's people who didn't, or they didn't want it because they were scared. Well, they're going to get clawed off them later. Of course, Trudeau said, "Well, just go and get it. We'll figure it out later."
Yeah.
So and then, of course, then they mailed out checks. Apparently, now there was a report that came out. They mailed them out to people that had already passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like and that's so now they have to figure out, or they're in prison, or or whatever. I mean, but the fact is that it shows you the income inequality that was there, and going forward, I mean, it's there's still that repercussion of that instability. I mean, minimum wage, like we were talking about, I mean, it's gone up, and now, I mean, the prayers, I mean, it puts more strain on them, and then they get trickle down effect, right? I mean, you look at the stores right now. I mean, broccoli $3.99 a pound. You have to hope that it's fresh. I went into Save on Foods, and we were there earlier today in Victoria here, just down the road, and it was all rotten. It's like, really? Like, I'll buy that. And so we got carrots instead. Yay.
I wanted to ask you, like this is completely off topic.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, like you don't usually go to Save On. I'm like, do you go to Walmart or something? Or do you, because like not thrifty, because they're in.
We go to Walmart too, but I mean,
I do a little bit of mix of both, which is like some other people. So I think it was Cassandra talking about this, where maybe somebody else was, where it's like you spend it was another person where you spend. In fact, it might have been Louise Haig, who's a famous basic income person, and she's like, when you're struggling, you spend so much of your time, like being poor is like a full-time job, because you have to go to all these different stores because you're trying to get the best, and all these other things that like you have to do because of the downstream effect of
Well, we go over to Save on Foods to get some bread, or I go and get milk. I mean, like some of the basics. I mean, some of the produce. I mean, if it's good, we'll buy it there. Yeah. Especially if it's a nice day. I don't mind going. But I mean, we got a grocer right across the road, like literally across the road. Like what, a minute and a half? I mean, Bertie, careful walking across that road. Well, and the thing is, I can't oppose he back and forth. He walks across, he parks it right there, and he walks across to our building back and forth. And I said to him one day, I saw him, I said, are you playing Frogger? He goes, oh, yeah. But I don't have 9 lives, unfortunately, right? Every extra credits. He was joking, but, and I think they're going to be doing some realigning, putting crosswalks in the area, so for bike lanes and stuff. But, yeah, we go over there and get some of the produce over at the store. I find it competitive. They've lowered down their prices to the other grocers. They've talked to their supplier to come to an agreement where to try to keep their prices down.
Yeah.
There's some of the other items like, really, I'm gonna spend like $3 for a can of soup.
Yeah. That's like me with I'm kind of a near Cook Street Village up here in Victoria, and so we unfortunately we lost Oxford Foods, which was really good for low prices. Sometimes their quality was a bit, but their prices were amazing. Like you could get a loaf of bread for $1 back in the day, and it was like, so I was like, oh no, we lost them, because I was like, for people who were struggling, they were kind of good that way. But so we got the root. It was taken. Well, they were retiring anyway, so it was taken over by Root Cellar, and it's the same sort of thing where like I wouldn't want to do all my shopping there. Same with Mother Nature Market across the road. No, no offense to either of them, but they're higher end, so that's like. If I'm pulling up in my Ferrari, I guess I could do that. But but the quality is really good for like vegetables and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was like, well, across the road, I mean, I can get a whole 4-liter jug of milk, right? But they want like $6.59 for it. Yeah. I mean, if I go to Save On Foods, I can get they've all gone up, right? Because now they charge that extra deposit fee and a viral fee on it. It's like, really? It's like another tax. To me, it's another tax, right? Yeah. Me and the retailer agreed. I got to know who the manager is at the grocery, right? I said, it's a tax. It's a tax. I mean, why don't they just call it a tax? I go, or better yet, blend it into the price. Otherwise, at the end of the day, you go there and go, oh, it's a 20-cent deposit, and now there's another. Some stores are charging like 1 cent, 9 cents, 8 cents. So now you're looking at 28 cents on top of that. Whatever, $6.59, or Save On Foods, I think it's $4.49 for it now. So yeah. Oh no, sorry, $5.49. Yeah, I was thinking of Shoppers Drug Mart, where the price used to be. used to be. Hey, that used to be my favorite place to go and get it. It was the cheapest.
Yeah.
We've been on for about an hour and a half, a little over actually now. So I didn't know if you wanted to do.
We're getting really cash here as well.
Yeah, so I didn't know if you wanted to do closing comments. One of the things I was going to do with Tom, I was going to ask you. I don't know if I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I was wondering. I was wondering after closing comments if you would do a little song as our outro on your guitar.
I don't.
Would that be putting you on the spot or not?
I know. It's interesting you mentioned that. It's like I am actually like I have. Oh, I should have. Okay, I can't possibly leave. But I do actually have one CD out called The Gold Blacks, which is from years ago, and in that same fashion, like one thing I've been trying to do. Is I've been trying to improve my musicianship. There's on the other side of this screen is an electronic drum kit. I've been trying to learn that thing, and then my main instrument's bass, and so my goal is to actually do a full album called The Commons, which is connected to basic income and the commons and stuff like that. That's something I've been kind of working on when I'm not doing this stuff, when I'm not working, when I'm not helping my loved one with as a kind of a part-time care worker. But so I have some stuff that I'm working on, but unfortunately I don't actually have any really decent basic income songs. But I do have songs that I've written for ages, obviously. So I could probably do. Sure. I know it's actually what song that I've been requested a few times. Like I've a whole background of doing like busking in open stages. So sure. Yeah. Well, we're around to say yes.
Oh yeah, just play anything you want. I'm not gonna tell you not to.
I'm not like an ace or anything. I'm not
gonna be picky. Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Hey, all of the above, Tom.
Yeah. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. That's one that my dad used to play on the guitar all the time.
Yeah. That makes for a nice, good ending segment on it too. And and then I'd love then we're gonna reach out to have you back on another time too, Tom, for sure. Like and I like to do all the follow-ups, right? And then just have you come on and we'll continue on the different basic income stuff as time goes on, because as it evolves, right? I mean, there's it's always interesting, and maybe Trudeau might change his mind.
Yes.
Maybe he might say, "Hey, basic income, wow,
yes,
how it can actually help people."
Yeah.
Imagine
or more pressure. I mean, like more pressure from the NDP, because of course they've been for it. Like, I mean, Leah Kazan and Lauren, our own MP here,
Laurel Collins.
Laurel Collins, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, just keeping that pressure on for a guaranteed livable basic income in Canada. And
was it Benita Zarello? She's been really good too. Been really pushing. I mean, there's Kim Pate, there's Lee Kazan, Laurel Collins, you name it. I mean, even on the Green Party, Mike Maurice, he's been very vocal about getting the supports. I mean, not so much on the basic income, but it's the same concept. He wants to see people have enough money to succeed. So, I mean, the theory is to get people enough money. So the theme is that the need is there. I mean, there's so much patchwork system across the country, like EI and the child care benefits, GIS, OAS. I mean, disability supports. I mean, you name it, GST and.
I mean, Hugh Segal, the longest running advocate for it in Canada, conservative senator, he saw when the GIS was put in place, and he's like, yeah, this isn't rocket science. We know how to do this, and it's about getting those numbers back up to where they should be, and then just believing we can do it, and and showing people that no, it's not this thing or that thing. It creates a floor underneath everyone, and people can decide what it means to them. It just makes things work,
Well, especially with the GIS, I mean, some of them got like a 50-cent rate increase. What is that going to buy you? A couple bananas?
Yes, I saw some of those.
Maybe a couple of small bananas. Oh, that was something too big. Hang on.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, you give them more.
Yeah.
They're going to put the money back into local small businesses. So it's going to help make them thrive rather than big corporations where we know, I mean, the billions of dollars of profits that they're making.
Yeah.
So,
and like Shay said, it's like when it comes to being unhoused, it's like you guys have houses made of wood and concrete. We have houses made of cloth. So lo and behold, crime can descend upon us because it knows it has a target. You get people off the streets, all of a sudden crime has has less opportunity, and people are also, as we've seen in pilots, crime goes down because like crimes of like desperation are like, well, why do I want to do that? That doesn't make any sense. So all of a sudden that stuff starts to fade away on its own as well. Not all of it. Obviously, some people are wonderful, but most people are like most people want to go in the right direction, and that's what we see in pilots and projects and unconditional cash transfers over and over and over. So
Anyway, take it away, Tom.
Yeah.
And sing us, get us
fired. Pick me up, take me higher, let me ride into the heavens. Take me on, down on paper, read between the lines. Pick me up, take me higher, let me ride into the heavens. Fill my heart with the glory and every reason why. There's so much in my life I'd love to try. It's simply not enough, I'm never through. And I'm longing for you from this empty table. Longing just to see you smile. Pick me up, take me higher, let me ride into the heavens. Take me on, down on paper, Read between the lines, pick me up. Take me higher, let me ride to the heavens, fill my heart with your glory and every reason why. I'm longing for you, oh, oh, oh. Longing from this empty table in the corner. Don't leave me waiting here. Let's break the shell of fear. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ah, ooh, I don't know. Pick me up, take me higher, let me ride to the heavens. Take me up, down on paper, and read between the lines. Pick me up, take me higher, let me ride into the heavens. Fill my heart, the glory and every reason why. Oh, take me higher, so much higher. Oh, oh, oh.
I wanted to have my lighter, my big lighter, do this, you know, but I didn't have my big lighter with me.
On a bus, I've sung it in the back of a restaurant.
It was so good. It was so good.
You have another one, Tom?
Geez,
Encore.
Encore.
One more, and then we're
One more.
gonna get out.
For you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, jeez.
Well, we'll see if there's anyone from the audience that maybe they'll have a any questions for you.
Your own personal Jesus. I didn't write this one. Someone to hear your prayers. Someone who's there. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers. Someone who cares. Feeling unknown and you're all alone. Flesh and bone by the telephone. Lift up the receiver, I'll make you a believer. Take second best, put me to the test. Things on your chest you need to confess. I will deliver, you know I'm a forgiver. Reach out and touch faith. Reach out and touch faith. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers. Someone who's there. Feeling unknown and you're all alone. Flesh and bone by the telephone. Lift up the receiver, I'll make you a believer. I will deliver, you know I'm a forgiver. Reach out and touch faith. Reach out and touch faith. Reach out and touch faith. Reach out and touch faith.
Nice job.
There you go.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bravo.
So on
Right
on that note,
Okay.
Yeah.
any last comments, or we're out?
Oh yeah, I had a little thing. anyone who wants, ways to get connected or involved in basic income. There's the Basic Income Earth Network, which started in 1986. It's now as Basic Income European Network. You can find them on basicincome.org, on Twitter and Facebook. On Twitter, they're Basic Income. They're at Basic Income org. There's obviously Scott Santon's. In Canada, there's the basicincomenow.ca, which has a bunch of links. There's UBI Works, of course, Basic Income Canada Youth Network. UBI Works on Facebook has the UBI Workers. There's Coalition Canada, Basic Income Coalition.ca. And actually, there's a thing on Coalition Canada I'm learning from Susan from BIBC, which is that you can actually do like old school paper petitions where all you need is 25 signatures. You get it sent to, give it to your MP, and if you have 25, like maybe 25 or more signatures, they have to read it in the House. So like there's ways to keep yelling this until it happens. So let's make it happen.
Let's get this going. Let's make this happen. Exactly.
Let's raise the roof to raise the floor.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better than you, Tom, on that one. Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, and I want to, thank you very much, Tom, for coming on and letting us know all about basic income. We'll have to definitely have you back very soon, and we'll part two.
Part two.
Part three, part four. Definitely we'll go to part two first because that's, the chapter. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on, and I'll make my ending statement and I'll pass over to Neil. So first of all, everybody, Tom's been on today talking about basic income, how it's really going to change people's lives in so many ways. I encourage you to listen back on the video if you missed out on the live segment right now, or you're just tuning in and say, well, what did I miss? Definitely rewatch and come back on and and just listen to it, and we'll be having Tom come back on again soon, and definitely continue on this, and definitely subscribe to Neil's YouTube channel. Neil Matheson's YouTube channel, and stay up to date on all the latest people coming on, my special guests coming on like Tom and so many other wonderful people, and also Breaking with Brent segments. Gotta love those. Those are really funny. And
do we want to introduce the new segment that we're gonna do?
Yeah. So there's a new segment coming up. I'm really excited actually about this. We were just talking about this the other day. So it's Coffee Time with Brent. So it's going to have a neat little twist to it, and I'm not going to give too much away on it, but it's going to have a little twist. It's going to be more just current events that's going on. Sit back, have a cup of coffee with Brent. Hey, we'll do this over Zoom. And maybe some little twists where it could be a live event where I'm actually sitting down having a cup of coffee, and it's actually being recorded. And we'll talk about current events, what's going on. And just coffee time, right? Some people say coffee talk, no big whoop. But of course that would be off a different show, so that's why I just say coffee time. Because I was going to say coffee talk, but I'm just kind of leery on that one because there was a segment, there was a show that used to use coffee talk. Oh. So I decided to go with coffee time, and that goes back to anyone who, around our age category, they used to watch Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
It was coffee talk.
Dana Carvey.
No big whoop, right? So
no big whoop.
I was really wanting to go with the coffee talk, and I thought, better not.
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to stay away from that because, copyright or anything. And coffee time, and it's more of a natural because, hey, it's coffee and it's time to talk.
Yeah.
Talk about what? Well, that's stay tuned. And there was going to be a couple other little twists and turns with that one too, and it'll
be an opportunity for it's kind of like a mailbag sometimes too. Like if anybody leaves a comment either in here or on one of the videos, we don't always get a chance to respond back to those comments. So it'll be an opportunity for you to respond back to a viewer comment or whatever.
Yeah, or anybody leaves any comments, say on Twitter, on our Twitter feeds, they say, well, hey, could you talk about such and such, or I really enjoyed the show, and we can definitely bring that forward, and we're gonna be it could either be pre-recorded or it could be live, but it's all about coffee and talking about maybe different types of coffee.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah, and and it's all about time, right? And the time is that stay tuned on it because it's going to be coming up soon, and we'll be launching that, and as well as Breaking with Brent segment. Stay tuned, subscribe to Neil's YouTube channel, and stay up to date on all the segments.
Another guest that's doing a part 2 is Cassandra. We'll be back on Thursday at 2 p.m. PST our time. So that's 5 p.m. Eastern. So she'll be back for our part 2 talk on Thursday, 2 p.m. PST.
Yeah, and I know coming up in the near future, we actually have a guest who was actually on. He's going to be coming on from South Africa.
That's true.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's on April 27th, so that's a little ways
that's
away.
way down, quite a ways. But in between time, there's always the opportunity for anybody who would love to come on, talk about lived experience with a disability, or maybe someone in your family has a disability, or somebody who has a disability, and you want to talk, for them because maybe they're camera shy, or they just, or whatever it may be, right? You just reach out. And we can definitely talk more.
If you're camera shy like Tom is,
Hey, yeah, and then the good thing about the good thing about here is that you don't have to have your picture on. You can just have audio versus video. I find video is just more of a personal touch where you can actually interact with the person, but that's okay. If the person just wants audio, that's fine too. That's like the old Twitter space. Right, where it was just one thing, it was just audio. That's it. This is more of a personal touch, and it's better. So I just want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Stay tuned to our next upcoming episode, and also keep an eye out, keep an ear out, and watch out for our new segment, Coffee Time with Brent.
That's right.
Yeah.
Share, subscribe, do all the above.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you all again soon.
What?